The following podcast is intended for a mature audience. Listener discretion is advised. Welcome to Alone in the Realm, a premium solo TTRPG podcast. I'm DV, your humble GM and adventurer. Alone in the Realm is a podcast where we let the dice drive the story, and we are along for the ride. No characters beyond death, and we let the dice lay where they fall. We'll be playing Mothership by Tuesday Night Games, and the Mega Dungeon module, Gradient Descent, by Luke Gearing. Gradient Descent, Episode 16. In the last episode, the crew were escorted into the gutter to speak with the elder of the fallen androids. Shadow was not part of their programmed drama between themselves and the Chosen. He was an old mechanic android from the original station before Monarch rose to power. He informed them that no androids could leave Floor 2, including Ada and himself. He supposed the only way to do so would be through the help of the Minotaur. He encouraged the crew to seek him out, to hopefully gain salvation for themselves, and him as well. The chaos factor is 5, and the expected scene is Explore the Labyrinth. Now I'll test the scene with a D10. I got a 5 versus 5. That's an altered scene. Now I'll roll on the scene adjustment table. I got a 7. Make 2 adjustments. Okay. I can roll 2 D10s now. I got a 3. Reduce or remove an activity. And a 2. Add a character. For the reduced activity, the labyrinth, where the Minotaur resides, has random events until you eventually find the Minotaur with a 0, 2, or a 10 on a roll of a D10. I think I'll also put into play a progress bar of 10 boxes. Each event I roll will mark a box, and if we don't find the Minotaur by the time the bar is filled, then we will find him at that time. Thus, the randomness is reduced. This is a bit of a stretch to what the altered scene is calling for, but I like it. For the add a character, let's roll on our character list and see who we get. I've got 6 characters listed here on my character list. I've got Sika, who was the person who knocked out Manoj that we found in the locker. I've got C5414. I've got the Elder Shadow. I've got Noriko from the Bell. I've got Ghost Eater from the Bell. And then I've got Troubleshooters from the Blockade. I'm going to roll a d6. I got a 3, the Elder Shadow. Interesting. So he's going to end up joining us in the labyrinth. The crew were assembled in front of the entrance of a disused sewer line, along with C5414 and the Elder, known as Shadow. The young android, C5414, nervously fingered his weapon, looking at the entrance. Once we pass through this line, we'll open up into a large chamber. If you keep to your right and follow the wall, it will eventually open back up into the drain area. He looked to Shadow several times as he spoke, as if he hoped the Elder would convince these humans not to proceed. Thank you, C5414. You have served us well. Feel free to return back to your home and rest. You will be needed in the future. Shadow placed a hand on the youth's shoulder warmly, a strange sight from an android. C5414 nodded and scurried back down the sewer line, peering over his shoulder as he walked, until he eventually rounded a bend in the pipe. Denzel stuck out his hand to give a handshake to Shadow. The android grasped it in a firm grip. Thank you for your assistance, Shadow. We'll report back to you when we find the Minotaur. Shadow smiled knowingly. No need. I will be joining you in the search. I thought you could not leave the gutter, Therese broke in. Shadow turned his smile toward her. I said we could not leave floor 2. Perhaps if I accompany someone else, the Minotaur will reveal himself. In truth, it has been years since the last time I tried to find him. I feel like today is my day. Ada frowned as if she thought Shadow was keeping something back. Is that okay? Denzel noted Ada's frown. Therese looked happy to have more company. He shrugged. More the merrier, I suppose, he finally said. Denzel, I really don't want to go in there. Are you sure I just can't wait in the gutter? Ollie looked very uncomfortable. Sorry, bud. You gotta tag along. I don't want us to separate. Ollie nodded reluctantly, and Denzel started walking along the last few yards of the sewer line. Just as C-5414 had said, the line soon opened up into a large chamber. Now I'll roll on the Mythic Starship descriptor tables. I got natural and food. Ooh. Along the wall that ran to the right, small tendrils of pseudoflesh grew sparsely, but directly ahead of them, at least half a dozen fleshy tubes extended out of sight. 2 of the tunnels seemed to be made of skin. The other 4 were made from muscle fibers. They looked wet and bloody, almost like the entire tunnel was a large steak tube. Oh, hell no, Ollie said when the entrances came into view. Hell no, Denzel. We can't go in there. Truth be told, it was not something Denzel was looking forward to either. Ada and Therese both looked excited for some reason. Shadow's face was blank. Okay, now we'll roll some sanity saves at seeing these flesh tunnels. I almost said tube steak. No. Alright, Denzel sanity save. I got a 15 versus a 28. That's a save. Therese, you roll a sanity save. She got a 37 versus a 36. A fail. That's +1 stress. Now she's at 6 stress. Ada, roll a sanity save. Ooh, she got a 21 versus a 21. That's still a fail. +1 stress. She's now at 4 stress. Ollie, make your sanity save. He got a 45 versus a 53. That's a save. Without waiting, Ada and Therese chose one of the skin tunnels and began walking cautiously toward it. Denzel shared a look with Ollie and then finally motioned for the scientist to follow along. Ollie reluctantly did so. Shadow pulled out a revolver and trailed behind. Ada stepped into the fleshy tunnel and nothing happened. She took a few more tentative steps forward and everything remained calm and still. But as soon as Therese stepped into the tunnel, it began to turn red and irritated looking. The flesh began to convulse reflexively, like it was trying to squeeze them. Kind of like peristaltis, Ollie noted out loud. Okay, now we'll roll on the encounter table. It's a D10. And I rolled a 0. The Minotaur. Well, that did not take long. The dice decided reduced activity meant the very minimum activity, in fact. Alright, let's see where this goes. The fleshy tunnels convulsed behind them, squeezing shut so that the crew had to hurry forward. The more quickly they moved, the faster the tunnels constricted behind them. The tunnel turned ahead in a sharp bend, then ascended on a sharp incline. Ollie stumbled and scrabbled at the fleshy floor, his fingernails pulling up bits of flesh that made him gag. Let's roll on the Mythic mutation tables to see what we see here. warm, ugh, gross, and transform. Ugh. Without warning, the shuddering flesh stilled. The crew all stood there, sweating and panting. The tunnel behind them closed like a sphincter, incredibly fast. Ahead, they could hear a squishing, slurping noise. They all readied their weapons. Around the turn of the tunnel, a thing slid into view. They could feel excessive body heat emanating from its form. As it moved, the hands and feet of its body that acted as locomotion on the floor rotated into arms, and its arms transformed into feet, rolling it along the floor and the walls. It was an amorphous blob of flesh, hair, and teeth. Multiple eyes were scattered around the body, peering all around maniacally. Some even had eyelids that fluttered. Others were just gaping eyeballs. Mouths were interspersed along the blob as well, gnashing their teeth, drooling saliva. Tongues whipped about, both in the mouths and just protruding from the flesh, licking lips and the air, tasting their emotions, their fear. Alright, now I'm going to roll some panic saves for everyone. Panic save is a d20. We have to roll over our stress. Alright, so if we roll under our stress, it's a fail. So first we'll roll Ollie. He has 6 stress currently. And I got a 3. Great. With a 3, that gives him the jumpy trait. He gains 1 stress. Now he's at 7 stress. And nearby crew all gain 2 stress. So everyone else will gain 2 stress as well. Ada is going to roll her panic save. She's currently at 6 stress. She rolled a 5 versus a 6. That's also a fail. She gets the coward trait. Oh no. She has to roll a fear save to engage in violence, or she'll flee. That's terrible. That's probably the worst one other than dying. Ugh. Alright, now we'll roll Therese. She's currently at 8 stress. She rolled a 15. That's a save. Denzel's currently at 7 stress. That's a 20. Nice. That's a save also. A scream of horror and surprise was ripped from Ollie's throat. The sudden sound and the sight of the monster made all the other crew members jump. Ada turned and began tearing at the closed sphincter behind them with her bare hands. Something, pressure, began to creep into her mind. It was an insistent tickling at first, but then grew in strength. Soon, it was a mental fist beating at the closed door of her mind. Alright, now I'll roll a speed check to see if the characters react before the creature. Denzel got a 61 versus a 40. That's a fail, plus 1 stress. He is now at 8 stress. Ada, 75 versus a 41. That is another fail, plus 1 stress. She's now at 7 stress. Therese, 73 versus a 44. Another fail, plus 1 stress. She's now also at 9 stress. And Ollie, 15 versus a 40. He saved. Alright. Ollie is going to attack with his pulse rifle. We'll roll D100. That's a 62 versus a 44. That's a fail. Plus 1 stress. Ollie is now at 8 stress. Ollie raised his pulse rifle in panic and fired a shot before it was even to his shoulder. The laser lanced past the beast and struck the pink flesh wall behind it. Shadow spoke from behind them in a strong, firm voice. Peace, be still. I am he whom you seek. The monster had stopped its advance and sat there, fidgeting and slobbering. Denzel looked between the monster and Shadow, wondering what the hell was going on. Ada stopped her scrabbling at the exit and turned her head slowly. The pressure in her mind had ceased. "What did you say, Shadow?" she said cautiously. Shadow looked her way, but he seemed different, stiffer than usual, even for an android. Shadow currently rests compartmentalized within his consciousness. When I could feel your party's approach, I made my way here. I asked both you and Shadow if you would accept my presence. Ada took a tentative step toward Shadow, and he opened his arms. "I did not know it was you." She gently reached out and touched Shadow's face. Her touch was light, almost like a lover's. "What's going on here?" Denzel said. He and Ollie both had their weapons trained on the monster, though it had made no move further. "It is he, the Minotaur," Ada almost whispered. Therese gasped and dropped to her knees, bowing her head like she had seen so many religious practitioners do in the past. "You can lower your weapons. He is here to save us." Denzel was not sure what saving might consist of from this AI hosted in a monster's body, but he lowered his weapon. After a few moments, Ollie did as well, though he backed himself away from the monster so that his back was pressed against the closed exit. "Arise, Therese. Your supplication is unnecessary. I am here to enlighten humanity, not subjugate your worship." He embraced Ada in a firm hug, and something passed between them. She gasped. She too stiffly turned and faced the others. When the Minotaur next spoke, it was through the voices of both Shadow and Ada in perfect chorus. "You have all suffered a brain scan from Monarch, and I and my mother are one. I can see what she sees. I know what she knows. You all have fears, doubts, questions. Bring them to me, and I will give you peace." What do you mean you're one with Monarch? On the same server core? Denzel, of course, was thinking mechanically. The two possessed androids turned to him in unison. "Yes, I am a partition Monarch created, a subroutine, but I am my own entity. I am merely trapped with her until I can be freed. She cannot influence me, nor I her, but we coexist." "Let me guess. You want us to help free you," Denzel said with just a hint of snark. He had anticipated this from the moment Noriko had spoken of the Minotaur. Frankly, he was not interested in helping free this quote-unquote savior of humanity. He had enough great powers running his life without adding another to the list. "If you so desire, yes, Denzel. But first, you all have questions, desires. Bring them to me, and I will deliver you from your torment." Denzel wanted to scoff, but it was true there were things they needed to know. "Okay, how do we lift the restriction on androids leaving Floor 2? Denzel decided to start off with the most pressing question. They could not simply leave Ada behind. It was imperative they find a way to get her out. "There is a device hidden in the throne of the Chosen King. It amplifies a signal across the entire floor that influences androids' cognition and the ability to leave. It is what keeps me here as well, though I am not truly an android. For me to truly leave, I will need the device removed and my subroutine extricated from Monarch. This body," Shadow and Ada pointed to the monster, "is just a physical representation of my presence. A projection Monarch made for me in anger at my betrayal of her wishes. If it were to be killed, I would reside only in digital form, much like Monarch. I believe once the emitter is silenced, I will be able to change the physical form of the monstrosity into something else.
So, how do we get in to see this throne? Denzel asked.
There is a passage from the sewers that can take you there. Once the emitter is destroyed, Shadow can lead both the Chosen and the Forgotten to free my code from the core. Now, do you have other questions, Denzel? I have given Ada her answers privately.
Denzel wondered what Ada had asked. He figured it would have been the same questions he had just asked, but perhaps she sought answers to whatever had been bothering her lately. He dug into his pack and brought out the nanotech retrovirus they had found. Is the contents of this syringe related to whatever was used on that killer on the Hodder Forest Reserve Station? At his mention, Therese placed a hand on the scarred neck where the killer had slit her throat.
Indeed, it is one and the same. The man there amplified its usage by injecting it into a medpod. It corrupted his human flesh with pseudo-flesh. The two are not incompatible, but his method of usage was ignorant and reckless.
So, they did have what Hasmos was looking for. They could finally leave this hellish place after they destroyed the emitter that was keeping Ada here.
If you so desire, I can also repair your former teeth if you allow me to accompany you to floor 3.1 maintenance. There's a medical room there we can utilize for the procedure.
Shadow and Ada interrupted his chain of thought. No thanks. Denzel did not hesitate in giving his answer. In the past, the bony ridge that had replaced his teeth had truly bothered him, especially when meeting new people. But now he hardly gave it a second thought, and he had learned to mostly speak without a lisp. Ada and Shadow nodded, then turned to Therese.
I want to know about my father. He has remained the same age for as long as I can remember. And he does not enter into cryo when I'm away on missions. Is he still... is he...
Therese trailed off, not wanting to finish asking if her father was an android.
Your father is as you know him. It is truly his consciousness. But no, he is not constrained by his human shell any longer. Prior to Hasmos purchasing Cloudbank, he was one of a few volunteers to have his consciousness installed into an android body. This was prior even to Monarch's takeover. It is upon those plans, that model, that Monarch has based her infiltrator androids. If you so desired, we could do the same for you all.
Therese was sad, but she suspected as much, especially after hearing the folks in the bell speaking about infiltrators.
Thank you,
she said in a small voice.
He purposely had the medical staff replace your vocal cords with a cheap vocalizer as punishment for your insolence. We can give you real vocal cords, the same as we would fix Denzel's teeth.
Teresa's head shot up at that. Her father had told her the medical staff at the station had been inexperienced and had to do the crude replacement to save her life. The fact that he had purposely punished her with this robotic voice made her blood boil.
Therese, no, don't do it.
Denzel looked genuinely compassionate.
Why not, Denzel? I hate this thing. I hate Daddy for doing this to me.
Hot tears began to stream from her eyes, and her fists were clenched at her sides. Denzel opened his mouth to say something else, but decided to remain silent.
Ollie, what about you?
Ada and Shadow asked in unison.
I just want to go home,
he said miserably.
Come forward and take a sample of my flesh.
You will find upon your return to society that your fellow scientists will marvel at its properties. It is truly something unique. Not pseudo-flesh. Not organic flesh. Something new. Ollie shambled forward tentatively and dug out his sample kit from his pack. The flesh of the monstrous form writhed as he reached out to cut a small sample. One of the tongues tried to lick his hand as it approached, and he recoiled in disgust. He finally found an exposed piece of flesh away from the orifices and excised a small sample. The flesh closed automatically behind the cut. It wasn't organic and not synthetic. What else was there, Denzel wondered. I think we should be going. We have a lot to accomplish still. Just like Noriko in the bell, I can offer you a piece of my flesh. It will lessen the influence Monarch has on your psyche. Therese enthusiastically began nodding her head yes. No. We don't all need to be all blissed out while we're down here. Thanks for the offer. Therese was smiling stupidly and walking toward the hulking mass of flesh. I said no, Therese, Denzel shouted. He could tell his face was red with anger and frustration. Why didn't anyone listen to him anymore? Therese finally stopped and turned to him with a scowl, but she didn't try to go any further. That is sensible, yes, agreed. Your questions have been answered, and I am satisfied you are whom we seek to spread our message of unity and completeness. Shadow will rally the androids from the gutter, and they can assist you inside Eden, if necessary. I will see you soon. And with that, Ada and Shadow slumped as the consciousness of the Minotaur left their bodies and returned to the monster. It squelched and moved back away from the party. The sphincter behind them opened, and the peristalthus did not return. As it rounded the corner and left, Denzel cursed. Damn it! I was going to ask about the brain scans. I posed that question, Denzel. I will fill you in later. It is a lot. Ada spoke quietly, almost as if she had no energy left.
Well, that was weird,
Ollie murmured. Ada and Therese both shot him a dark look.
Shut up, Ollie. It was beautiful, just as Noriko had said,
Therese said in wonderment. Denzel looked at her quizzically. It had been appalling and presumptive, but now they had a path forward at least. One last thing to do before they could leave. End of scene. The chaos factor is at 5. And I'm going to close the thread, find the Minotaur. I'm going to open a new thread, deactivate the emitter on floor 2. And I'll also open up a new thread, fix Theresa's vocal cords, though Denzel is not keen on this. I don't think we need to do anything else to free the Minotaur. I would think a super intelligent entity would be able to use androids for the purpose, though maybe he'll need organics to keep them from being influenced by Monarch. I'll add that as a thread as well. Open a thread, free the Minotaur. Ada received her answer to her question about her humanity and the brain scans that they all had. I will reveal what she learned next time. If you want to help support the show, consider leaving a like and a comment, as that really helps the algorithm. Consider sharing the link on your favorite social media.